Hi, I'm Juan.
And I'm Edgar. And today we're looking at some Gunfighters.
Some Cowboys.
Yes. This is the Great Escape Games Gunfighters set for the Dead Man's Hand game, which seems quite interesting, but I didn't buy the book rulebook, so we'll have to do that another time. For today, we'd like to have a look at the models. So would you like to
build 5 each?
Just crack it open?
So we've just got a little bit of advertisement for the game there.
Your time is over and you're gonna die bloody. And all you can do is choose where.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw. That is my terrible cowboy accent.
So we've got the bases you'd expect.
Yeah, so that's just some flat 25mm discs that come with quite a few models.
And we've got 2 sprues, which are the same.
2 identical sprues. Each of the sets of legs has a little pudding base, so you can choose to glue them to the 25 round base, or we can do my resin trick and have them on a slightly taller base.
Absolutely loads of options. The heads are interesting. I can't tell whether they're supposed to be, this is the Outlaws and this is the Law heads. I don't think it is. I mean, obviously the one with the bandana over his face is going to be an outlaw. But...
yeah, that one's definitely a bank robber. The others are just generic male heads of the time. Beards and moustaches, and there's all sorts of arms. There's 2 rifles, 2 shotguns, and a whole boatload of revolving pistols, including, interestingly, some holsters. Some holsters here that you can glue onto the models if you've got the revolver in the hand.
There's a holstered revolver there. Yeah, yeah. So they could have a pistol and a rifle?
Well, there's open hands. So you've got left and right hands with nothing in. So I guess you could model one with gun in the holster and then empty hands. Mm. So we've got a collection of tools. So why don't we get started, get snipping, and make our first model each. I'm just deciding.
Assuming the indent in the pudding base is where that leg is supposed to sit.
I would guess so.
It's a very hard plastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty good actually. I've noticed with certain model kits from various companies that while they are polystyrene kits, firmness of the plastic will change dramatically from one to another, and I much prefer the slightly firmer ones. They're sort of easier to work with. It's kind of the opposite to what you might think. I have to say the model line's pretty good on these. They're fairly shallow and they're in easy to reach places.
Yeah, they came off nicely.
So I'm already starting my first conversion on these models. I'm building my first model still, and I've already started work on a modification. So this is what I've got so far. I've got legs, torso, and one of the arms. So this arm is actually drawing the revolver from the holster. So actually that's one piece. The holster, the gun, and the arm is one piece. So it makes it very easy to put it on the legs like that, rather than lining a few bits up. But the other arm, what I'm going to use is this arm. So this arm is like kind of waving, kind of up in the air, or if I was to put it down, that would be a fairly good pose. But what I want to do is I want to cut the wrist and rotate the hand so that he's like shielding his face, as if someone started shooting at him and he's like shielding his face and drawing the pistol in this kind of reactive way. So I'm going to get on with that and we'll see how that goes.
Shield it from what, the light?
No, from gunfire.
It's going to help, isn't it?
It doesn't help, but people still do it. People will, just to show the big camera, he's kind of like this. And what I want to do is turn it like that.
Yes, yeah.
So that he's like, so someone started shooting at him and he's just like, drawing the pistol, put his hand out. And while his hand being in that position isn't going to stop the bullets, people still just reflectively put their hands up in very defensive ways like that. I forgot to get the cutting mat out. So I'm going to use the top of my knife box as an impromptu cutting mat. Thankfully, as this arm has the long sleeve, I can just very easily cut along the end of the collar, wrist, cuff. I forgot what a cuff was.
There's some very weird angles on some of these.
Where?
So this pistol here, you'd sort of be holding the gun over that way.
I think it's supposed to be down at the side, so he's like holding it like that. He's not actually aiming it, he's like holding it down.
Ah, yeah. It's going to film me staring at a sprue.
Talk us through your process.
I'm looking for an extended left arm, or something I can make into an extended left arm. So I've gone for the crouch guy. I put the rope on his hip.
Yeah, that's cool.
I want to make him left-handed, so I want him pointing a pistol or a rifle forwards. Don't know what I'm going to do with the right hand yet. Or the head.
Maybe you need to go for the similar sort of conversion to what I have done. Except instead of just rotating the hand, you swap the hand from one arm to another. We've got there's various left hands with pistols, so that's easy to get. One thing we noted when we were just having a look at the sprues before we started filming is that each sprue has 5 models, 5 sets of legs, 5 torsos, but there are 25 arms. So there's enough for 12 and a half. There's enough for 12 models, but there's only 5 models on the sprue. So there's plenty of options. So if you did want to try a conversion, try to cut at a wrist and rotate it so that it's at the angle you want it, even if you mess that part up, there's plenty of other arms in the sprue to do something else with it.
Yeah, we can recover.
Yeah. And that's one of the really kind of useful things when it comes to plastic multi-part kits that you don't usually get, or back in the old days when it was all pewter models and stuff, you didn't have quite as much leeway, because if you ruined an arm, the model only came with that one left arm, so if you ruined it, well, you've got to sculpt a new arm from scratch. Also,
the arm's doing well.
That can happen.
The pistol, long gone.
You got it?
Yeah.
Excellent. Right. Always carry a torch because it's good for finding things. People always ask me why do you carry a torch, and I'm like, well, I use it literally every day, more than once a day usually. That's not quite what I had in mind, but I think it does.
Yeah, it portrays what you're trying to put across.
Yeah. I think this is more of a, like, he's like, back off, buddy. That's the pose I'm getting here. It's not so much a reactive pose as a more of a, like, I don't want no trouble, but if you're given trouble, I'll give it back. Kind of. I've got to stop trying the cowboy accent because it's terrible.
So I fitted so I fit the arm minus the hand. So I'm just trying to work out what angle I want it. I want it a little bit raised up. So I'm so used to using thin glues, it's odd. Could I make it look like he was fanning the gun?
Can you have him reaching across the body like that? I think what you would need is you would need a pistol arm that's kind of in the middle, and then the other hand that's kind of in the middle as well.
That can be the idea for model number 2 then.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a good idea. I think I've decided on my next model.
He stabbed you then.
So one thing this kit does have a few of is some empty hands. There's some open palm hands and some fists. And I've noticed that there's a left and right fist. There's actually more than just one of each. And so what I want to do is I want to make a bruiser. I want to make a model that's going in for a couple of punches. Because not every fight needs to be a gunfight. If only we could have some chairs. Have a bar fight and just have someone smashing someone over the head with a chair.
Oh, that one's got a cigar in his mouth. That's awesome.
So there's two ways that we are dealing with mould lines, and the way I generally do it is by using the back edge of the knife, which while usually isn't sharp like the main edge, it's usually a very kind of crudely cut bit of metal.
90-degree angle on
Yeah.
it, isn't it? I mean, I tend to use that for the most part, and then go in with a file for where the stubs are, where you've cut it away from the sprue.
Like we mentioned earlier, just being a slightly firmer plastic is making this easy for us. They're very nice models to work with, and that's all it needed. It didn't need really much work at all. But I've got my duster coat for my bruiser, so I'm going to grab some arms for him.
So this is my first guy. He's left-handed pistol. The right hand's just in a fist position. He's got a lasso I glued on his hip, and he is squatted down. Oh. And I found a rather nice head with a cigar in it. So moulded onto the body line is the bandana. So this guy is an outlaw, and he has got it down at the moment because he's smoking a cigar. It's pretty cool.
So it seems that there are 3 fist hands. There's 1 right and 2 left. I assume that's intended so that you can have the right hand with a pistol and the left hand back as a fist. But what I'm going to do is I'm rotating both of the hands up to be this kind of old school boxing style, ready for a punch up kind of bar fight. Someone's come into town and Cora's in trouble. Just thinking I should pick the most gruff head for this fist fighter, but they're all pretty gruff.
So that pistol arm, if you imagine it glued sort of more like that, so it's out of the way. And then obviously that's what I'm after.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
So I was working with the idea of using the start of this arm to do the curve, and that to do the.
Because if you just hold the hand in the right place, that looks absolutely spot on for fanning. But then if you look at if you show off the connection for the shoulder,
yeah, it's more.
Kind of we've got this big wedge that's sort of missing, and so if you carve into the front of that torso,
here,
yeah, so you can get the arm in there,
okay.
And then it will almost certainly need a little bit of milliput around the back of the shoulder to fill in, because there'll still be some of that kind of wedge missing. Well, I definitely want to make, now that I've done some fun open-handed stuff with the fisticuffs dude, I want to have a 2-gun man.
So I've cut an angle into both the body and the arm to sort of bring the pistol that way round, to bring it more central. And then I've already cut sort of a groove there, but I'm thinking maybe taking the hand off of that arm, putting it onto this arm, and sort of going more like that, which would give us a better angle to work with, I think.
So what I'm about to do, what I want to do is I want to have this gunfighter pointing 2 guns directly forwards. So with this arm, I can kind of twist the wrist and have him roughly pointing forwards. But with the right arm, there's no right arm that's kind of pointing straight forwards. If you see, that's almost at 90 degrees. It's kind of pointing out there. So what I'm actually going to do is cut the corner off of this arm so that I can slot it in there.
Yeah, swing it round.
And again, just like I recommended to Paul, I'm going to carve a little bit of the chest out so that I can have it there. It might end up with a bit of a gap at the back, which is, I'll just fill that with milliput. That's kind of, this is pushing what you can do just with the plastic kit, but a little bit of milliput to cover over the gap is something that we can do. So that's what I'm planning there.
So this is Mark 1 of the fanning. As you can see, this shoulder at the back is rough. This one is, well, both shoulders are rough. But it looks quite good. looks quite good. Focus, please. There we go.
Oh yeah, that's brilliant. That is right in the kind of the coming back and going for the next one. That is really you've pretty much got that. And yeah, the back of the shoulder isn't perfect, but we'll make up some milliput for the rest of it. So I've got my two arms roughly in position. I've got one kind of very straight and one that's off to the side. He's definitely shooting this one at the moment. And if you see kind of from the top view on this arm, that I've actually cut this wedge of plastic off of the arm so that I could sit that at a different angle. But that does mean that I've got a gap. However,
can you shove that wedge in?
What I can do is put the wedge in, glue it with the polystyrene cement, leave it for a good like 10 minutes for it to fully evaporate, and then I can come back with the knife and cut away the extra material. And it's almost like just having to deal with a mould line at that point. It's sort of a little bit of carving, but this, like the back of the shoulder, is a fairly smooth shape, so it's one of the easier things to do. So for the moment, this model is going to have this lump sticking out of his back, but when I'm done, that should be a fairly smooth, rounded shoulder. Won't necessarily be perfectly anatomically correct, but let's get that stuck in. And I want to use plenty of polystyrene cement here, particularly using this thick stuff because I want to make sure that this all kind of fuses together into one piece. And that looks weird at the moment, but when I come to clean that up, that should end up being a nice round shoulder. I think this guy gets my masked face. So for my next trick, I'm going to cheat completely, and I'm going to add to my Gunfighters Dead Man's Hand sprue a Frostgrave sprue, because I have here the Mountain Warriors of the Frostgrave Soldiers 2 set. Oh, that fanning, that looks great. Have you got any wedges of plastic?
No.
You can cut bits off the sprue to make some wedges.
Yeah, just fill it with green stuff first.
Yeah, or we can get them. We'll get the milliput out later.
Okay.
So this is the Frostgrave Soldiers 2 sprue, and we've got some. I mean, these are the kind of female mountain warriors styled, and I think this one with these kind of big frilly skirts looks very, kind of Wild West American lady style. So I'm gonna grab that, but I'm gonna give her some arms from the Cowboy set, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna give her the lever action rifle, because that's very the exhibition shooter. I can't remember her name. Annie Oakley. There you go. I'll have an Annie Oakley style excellent shooter. Yeah.
I'm imagining this one being a lawman.
I think at this point it's when I have to admit to the viewers at home that I've had this box of Cowboys for quite a while, and I keep on pulling them out of the box, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool, and oh, I could do this and I could do that, and oh, I want to make one with the open hand, like hand out, like he's protecting himself. I've had that idea for ages, but certainly using this Frostgrave kit is definitely something I've been wanting to do for a while, but I've been holding off to make this video.
I think I like a few more torso options.
Yeah, it would be nice to have some more variety, but this is the only kit that they've got at the moment. I'm sure if this was more popular, they would make a few more.
What's in the starter set then? That comes with a rule book and all that. Is it just the same box?
It's the same box of models. You just get the rule book as well. Yeah. Oddly, you can't buy the rule book by itself. You have to buy a pack of models. Oh yeah, one thing we should mention is the price, because we've said all these nice things about the options in the set, and maybe we'd like some more torsos. I would agree with that, but the plastic being good quality and the mould lines being pretty good, we could expect the price tag to match. Well, this box of 10 models is £15.
Yeah, it's good.
So the models are effectively £1.50 per model. And I think that, given that this is such a good quality, the sprue, the moulding, such good quality, I think that price is excellent. And I think for anyone at the moment who's looking for some Cowboys, I think this is definitely something that you should look at.
I mean, there are very few options in Cowboy tabletop games as it is. I mean, obviously I've done a lot of the Fallout stuff, with the Fallout New Vegas obviously being set in the West. So there's lots of thematically, like this duster here would be perfect for some of those models.
Yeah, it would.
So there's one that's like sort of steampunky, which is called Wild West Exodus. So I've got some of these on my watch list for conversion work for the Fallout game.
I'm dead happy with that. That looks amazing.
Have you seen the original Westworld?
Which one's what? I don't know what Westworld is.
Oh, I'll say in the future. It's set in the past now. But when it was made in the 70s, it was set in the future. This company had made robots that looked like humans, other than they didn't have fingerprints and their eyes were kind of reflective. And you could go on holiday to Westworld or Rome World or Medieval World, and you could go and you could be a gunslinger, and the guns were real guns, but they had sensors in them so they wouldn't shoot anything hot. So the idea was that you could shoot the robots, or you could be the sheriff, or whatever you wanted to roleplay as for your holiday, and you could shoot the robots, and you could shoot inanimate objects, but you couldn't kill other people. But the film was really good. So the whole idea is that you would go on holiday, you'd say, okay, I want to be the sheriff. So they would just write you into this RPG as the sheriff. And it's a whole little town, and then it's a dynamic story. It was really clever. It was a really clever film. Obviously, as films go, if something goes wrong, then the robots become semi-sentient and start killing people.
Yeah, that's certainly an interesting...
And Yul Brynner, which is obviously famous for doing cowboy films, he plays he's like the town's outlaw.
Is he... Oh, is this a spoiler for the film, but is he one of the robots?
Yeah, he's one of the robots, yeah. It's obvious it's not like a surprise. So he's like, I would say the antagonist. He's there to antagonise the guest into having a
gunfight.
A gunfight, yeah. So he just does, insults and stuff like that in the bars and stuff to make people call him out, and it's just really entertaining.
I see the interesting thing that you had with your kneeling legs. I'm having a similar, I wouldn't say issue, but I understand where it's come from. So when you make a plastic mold, when you make a mold for plastic injection, the natural way of doing it is to cut the mold to be exactly the same shape as what you want the resulting part to be. You put the hot plastic in and it starts to cool and it becomes a solid, and then you pull it out. The problem is, as it cools, the plastic will ever so slightly change shape. It will shrink and it will warp. Yeah. And there's a whole science on, I call it thermold calculations. I don't know the correct term. Well, I don't know if there is one term for the whole thing. There's lots of different parts of it. It's calculating how much the material will stretch and warp and shrink, so that when it comes out of the mold, it is exactly what you wanted it to be. But that means that you have to cut your mold slightly off. And what has happened here, and it's only on this one part in this kit, there's only this one part that's even remotely suffering, and it's the kneeling leg, because it's a separate part and you've got to glue inside the base and the waist. Gap for it has become the wrong shape because the plastic has warped ever so slightly. However, if you put a nice big blob of
plastic, which is what I did in the end.
Yeah. If you put a nice big blob of plastic cement inside where the leg glues in, and just hold it in place, force it in, hold it in place, there's not enough spring tension in the plastic for it to be a problem. As long as you hold it there until it sets, then it's going to be fine. I can't honestly give them a negative point for that, because like I say, thermold calculations are a whole science, and this is an extremely minor example. And unfortunately I won't be able to show a decent shot of that because we weren't filming.
I'm just over here entertaining myself.
What are you doing?
I'm gluing dynamite to this guy's hand. So I want this one to look like he's eating a stick of dynamite. So we've got an open palm left hand, and the dynamite, which obviously I think is supposed to be for basing, but
it is a massive, massive chunk of dynamite. But yeah, there we go. That's gonna that's great. That's gonna look amazing when it's done.
So I did originally want to put the saddlebags on this one, but it doesn't actually fit on that torso. So
Oh, does it not?
no.
Oh, that looks hilarious. Getting ready to throw a massive stick of dynamite. I have to say that the sticks of dynamite are hilariously out of scale.
They're very big.
Just for context, 3 sticks is
The whole body.
it's thicker than his leg, whereas usually a stick of dynamite is both shorter and narrower than that. But I guess sticks of dynamite they're all handmade. Like, there's no single pattern of them, so you could make a stick of dynamite this size.
Oh yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, he's an outlaw. He's made it for
he made it himself.
blowing volt.
That much dynamite, you blow the vault and half the street. So the next thing I'm looking at is these shotguns, the double-barrel shotguns. So these 2 hands here and here, one right, one left-handed, have the stock and the receiver, kind of the back end of the shotgun, as one piece. And then the barrels, here and here, are separate. So you can glue them on straight to make it kind of ready to shoot, or you can glue them on at an angle to show that they're reloading. And I'm going to put one in at an angle to do the reloading. And that's a really cool thing that they didn't have to do. They could have just moulded it as one piece. Yeah, I think the right-handed one is the one I'm going to go for to see if I can make them to kind of make the reloading pose.
When I first looked at these sheriff badges, I thought, wow, they're huge on the scale, but they're so small.
They are very difficult to pick up, yeah.
I can see why they made them slightly bigger now.
Well, that's the whole point of hero scale. You make everything just a little bit bigger, a little bit cartoony, so that, one, it looks cooler, because you've got all the details are bigger and you can see them more clearly. Makes it easier to paint. It also makes it easier to build.
To lose.
Unfortunately, they are still very small, and so you can still lose.
Torch me.
At some point in the distant future, we'll find a sheriff's badge. There's plenty more sheriff's badges. It has been lost to the carpet. Yeah, it comes with 5 sheriff badges on each sprue, so it's 1 per model. So I can either put a fist hand and just pretend that he's got the 2 shells in his fist and you can't see them. Or I can put an open hand over the barrels as if he's actually pushing the barrels open, and so he wouldn't have the shells in his hand at that time. And I think that's the better option. Dropping models is always an option.
It is in this house.
Yeah. I think at some point I should probably make one of these models as intended rather than converting them. Because I think I've converted... Actually, no, that's not true. My shotgun guy, I was just very delicate about putting it together, but there's no, I didn't do any cutting on this one. But all of the others have had at least a little bit of cutting. Well, I've only got 1 set of legs and one body remaining, so I may as well cut those out and get those ready. See if I can work out what I want to do from there. Ooh, that's cool. So there's a set of arms. Well, there's 2 arms, one left and one right, that have the sleeves rolled up.
Yes, I noticed.
And they're on opposite side of the sprue, which is an odd thing to do, because you would expect them to be paired. I guess you don't have to have them paired. Like, you can say, you just roll up one sleeve for whatever. But I'm actually going to use both of these together because I think they look cool. I have a habit of... I don't know why, I just really like the aesthetic of a rolled up sleeve. What do you reckon? Arm up? Or arm down? I think arm down. Down looks... Up looks kind of funny.
Looks more like he's doing a dramatic show.
Yeah, but the off arm down is a bit more sensible. And I'm actually going to give this guy one of the empty holsters as well, because there's one of the things on the sprue is some empty holsters. Kind of this, the body and the arms that I've got for this one, it kind of makes him look a little bit younger than the others. I don't know what it is about it that's giving me that impression, but it's just kind of a feeling about it. But the heads don't really have the same aged.
Potato sack. Have you used the...
I have not used the potato sack.
Not the potato sack, the other one with the bandit.
Oh yes, my two-gun man has the scarf around his face. Oh, and actually my Annie Oakley, because one of the Frostgrave heads has
Nice.
a bandana around the face as well. So the two of those are the outlaws in my band.
As I speak.
Oh, you're using that. We've both used the same torso last.
Yes, it's a boring one.
Oh, I wouldn't say boring. It's just I'd actually say this is probably the easier one to use because it doesn't have a coat. One with a duster coat, two with like medium, well, three with medium coats, and then this is the only one without a coat. So if you were doing some conversion and wanted like arm space and hip space for drawing a pistol or something like that, this is the one to go for. Shall we have a look at each other's models then?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like your sheriff with the shotgun.
You've got a bit of the attachment point still on the bottom of that mask.
I'll deal with that in a minute. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I like your sheriff guy with the shotgun. That's a pretty cool model. Your throwing the dynamite one. That's hilarious.
Yeah, this guy does definitely look younger.
Yeah, with his rolled up sleeves.
Yeah.
So my favourite of yours, I think, is the fanning pistol guy. And I know we haven't done the miller putt yet, so he's got some gaps at the back. But that pose is just right. Like you really nailed that, I think.
Mm. So my favourite is definitely break action man. Just because I think it's a cool pose. You're not going to see many of them like that.
I like that it has the option to have the barrels broken open like that.
And the face is very. It looks like DeForest Kelly. I like it.
Well, we need to go and clean up some of these shoulders with a little bit of miller putt, but for the actual build, that's all we really wanted to show you today.
Yeah.
I've certainly enjoyed building these models. I've been waiting on building these for a while. What do you think about the set from Great Escape Games?
Yeah, they're really cool. They're really cool. I feel like I want some Native American Indians and some females.
Yeah. Just a wider selection would be nice. Don't know much about Great Escape Games. I don't know if they're a big company or a fairly new one. But this box, particularly at the price point of £15, I think it's great. It's good quality. There's so many options. The plastic's nice and hard so that you can kind of convert stuff relatively easily. Obviously, you don't have to. You can just put them together as intended, which is we have done a few of those.
Well, most of mine are. There's only the one I cut up to. Yeah. I think my favourite of my own is Dynamite Man.
Yeah, that was definitely a close second for me. I think my favourite of mine, not counting the Frostgrave one because that's cheating a little bit, would be I think Fisticuffs guy.
Fisticuffs.
Because he's out there ready for a scrap.
Yeah, I think Two Pistol Man would be my second. For some reason, it irks me that you didn't pick two of the same pistol.
Well, I just went with the hand options that were there. I guess if I could find a left hand that has the same gun as his right hand, I could switch it over.
No, it doesn't.
But I honestly kind of prefer the fact that he's got two different guns.
Well, I would say he's killed someone and taken their pistol.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go. That's what I was going to suggest. Back in my airsoft days, when I was playing close quarter battle very regularly, I would often go two pistols, but I'd go for two different pistols, just because having two of the same is a bit boring. And so the same with the model. Having two of the same pistol might be a bit boring, and having them different is
with them being
just more
revolvers,
interesting.
it's not like you've got to worry about two different magazine types, I suppose, is it? So I suppose it'd just be calibers, maybe.
Yeah. If they're both, say, 45 Colt or 44 Winchester something, then it would be fine. But even if they're different, you just have the ammo on the other side of your belt so you don't get them confused. Well, thank you very much for watching along.
Yep.
I've certainly enjoyed building these models. I hope you have as well.
So, yeah. It's been another mini.
A
From
mini
Back to the Brush.
series from Back to the Brush. Yes.
Hopefully we'll have these painted for one of the main episodes. Depends on the order they go up, I suppose.
The next episode of the podcast, or maybe the last episode of the podcast. Depends. Well, yes, thank you very much for watching, and we shall see you next time when we get Back to the Brush.